You go for it, Cowboy, and grab your Coors while you're at it.
Oh, that's already sitting here.
Well, hey, you're ahead of the game. Perfect.
Would have been cold gin time.
I thought about gin just because I liked it, but the damn thing is, there's the old adage of you can't smell vodka on breath, which is bullshit.
Alrighty. Whenever you're ready to count us down.
All right. Yeah, I know I'm that guy on the phone, and it's irritating. All right. Why does that fucking feel off? What? Oh, hand claps. Cool. All right. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, everyone? Chadwick von Tippitt and Joshua. I will spit in your magazine, Johnson, for another episode of
Oh, come
One
on.
More Last Time.
Come on, Mr. July, 1975. We're better than that.
July 1974.
74. I never get that right. Either way, latest issue of Playgirl magazine. Erect. Chadwick von Tippitt.
Yeah, we can get into that a different day, but
Or never.
So, since nobody seems to understand what I'm talking about, as far as Josh will spit in your magazine,
Oh, God.
I told somebody I was hanging out and jamming with Josh, and this dude was like, "What? That fucking asshole? I literally saw that guy spit in some girl's magazine."
This happened, Chad. This was not an exaggeration. This would have been around probably 2000, 2001, maybe. Friend of the band stopped by, as they usually did during practice on the weekends, and brought I think it was a Metal Edge magazine with her. And I, very drunk, probably under the influence of other things, decided to take it upon myself to look at every article and spit on the pictures of bands I didn't like. I think there was only one band I didn't spit on, and that was Down. So, I was that asshole, and there's no justification for it, but that did happen. So, I think I bought the girl another magazine after that, just because, well, the dick move, you know what I mean?
Yep, but it's a Josh story,
And
and
that is
everybody loves a Josh story.
That is a 40 the hard way story. But and we'll definitely get into that particular story here in a minute. But no, this episode is going to revolve around the band Slipknot. And I think where we're going to go with this is just kind of give a overview of what we think of them musically, their progression, and really seeing as how we're from Iowa, we're still in Iowa, and we've been involved in the music scene in Iowa, what impact they may or may not have had on the music scene when they got signed. So, care to take it from there, Chadwick?
Yes. So there's a lot of bullshit layers
Sure.
to this band, and one of the motivating factors for me is out there in the internet world, there are people who are fans of the band who will claim that Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat is their best record.
Now, that was their first official release, correct?
It's probably more like a demo than it is an official release.
Okay.
It didn't really sound too polished.
But it's been established that that was their first release.
Sure.
Okay.
But it only has like half of the current band. You know, those are the original members. You got like the sample guy,
Yes.
the clown, the bass player who's deceased,
Yeah, Paul Gray.
and the drummer,
Yeah, Jordison.
who's not even in the band anymore.
No, that's right, he's not.
Yeah, so like it's not even Slipknot as we know it. But it's funny Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat hits closer to home to us because it sounds like a bunch of local bands that we came up around.
Right.
And one of the cool things is recently I can't remember what music magazine did an article. I will definitely link it because it's interesting.
Okay.
So around our area here, there was a band called Smack Dab.
Smack Dab, yes.
So one of the cool things about them is in I don't know if it was Revolver or Kerrang.
I think it was Revolver. I know the article you're talking about now.
So they were like, what kind of Slipknot news can we get?
Right.
Well, somewhere around 98, 99, like right before they were signed to Roadrunner or whatever. Corey came down here and recorded a song with Smack Dab.
That's right.
And Roadrunner Records sent him a letter and was like, hey, don't release that song.
Okay, I didn't know that part of it.
Yeah, they weren't allowed to release that song with Corey singing on it because the record company squashed it.
Oh.
So here we are, 21 years to the day, the official release of their self-titled.
That's right.
So here we are 21 years later. Or, well, if that was, that was a few years ago now, but whatever.
Sure.
They linked to the SoundCloud of the song by Smack Dab, so you can listen to it.
I have not listened to that, but have you?
Yes.
Okay, what'd you think?
It's new metal.
Well,
very new metal. Kind of like Snot.
You know what? I tell you what, for all of my very well known, I guess amongst us, hatred of new metal, I can't help. I liked Snot.
I never got into it.
I don't know why I like them. I just do.
Hey, that's cool. I mean, yeah.
I think probably because there was very much a punk influence to what they were doing. I mean, yeah, they were new metal as all hell, but I don't know, for whatever reason, Lynn Straight didn't bother me. In fact, I enjoyed listening to him. So, yeah, just unfortunate band name, though, Snot.
That's kind of a cool name, I guess.
Well, yeah, if your idea of cool is Anal Blast or something to that effect. I don't know. I think naming a band after a bodily function, you're really... There's not very far you're going to go with that.
Well, it could have been worse. It could have been Dick Snot.
Dick Snot.
Perhaps it was. Perhaps it was Dick Snot.
Well, they did have that song, My Balls, Your Chin. You remember that?
No, I never really got into this band.
It's so bad it's good. My balls, your chin. My balls, I want to put them on your chin. For whatever reason, it works.
Okay. So,
yeah, let's get back to
I got a little sidetracked there, but like I said, the mind-blowing thing is there are these like legions of fans that are gung-ho over their 1,000 copy quote-unquote album that they made in 1996.
Was it 96?
Sure. Like I said, I researched this, and there's different layers. Like, they had Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat, and then they did another demo, and then they did another demo, and some of those songs ended up being songs on the self-titled record.
Right.
And I'm guessing it's because they added Mick to the band, and perhaps some of the other guys wrote the music and or lyrics. But then they got Corey involved, and then it's like they went to another level.
And they absolutely did.
So like, there's a song on their Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat called Slipknot.
Oh, okay.
And part of that song is like, I think it's the song "Sick" on their self-titled, but it's like a little slower.
Right.
And the original lyrics were written about a role-playing game, like a werewolf vampire role-playing game. So when you hear them being sung, you're like, these guys are giant dorks.
Right.
So then, like, the Corey demos that you hear, you have him singing those lyrics, and I bet you he was just like, God kill me.
What the fuck is this? Because, Corey Taylor, if he's anything, he's of a strong opinion. And honestly, I think he's brilliant.
So he did rewrite those lyrics, and it's whatever the current song is, I don't know.
Well, and truth be told, I did that with our band Sublimate when I came into that once again, and then was it 99 when they brought me back? Yeah, it was. And the first item of business I did was take and rewrite lyrics, which is not an easy thing to do when it's the drummer who wrote the lyrics, and you got to tell him in the most diplomatic way possible that I can't convincingly sing these lyrics about beating somebody to a pulp and putting them in their place when I'm 140 pounds soaking wet and I wear bell bottoms. It's not convincing. Nobody's going to believe that. But going back, I say, let's start this off with introduction to Slipknot. And I can tell you mine. It wasn't the major label debut that came out in 99. It probably would have been 97, possibly early 98, I'm going to guess. And my introduction to them happened in a basement in Canal with me, my brother, and 2 other ladies, one of whom happened to be Alexis. And she had brought a compilation disc of Des Moines bands because Smack Dab was playing Des Moines. So she's put that in there, and our whole thing was we would take copious notes before listening to anything. So you can about imagine the headspace. And, you know, full disclaimer, I fucking hated everything I heard. All you were hearing at the time was new metal. And nothing against these bands, it just wasn't what I liked. You know, a lot of Cold Chamber, a lot of Korn.
Well, see, I would agree with you on that. Like, so 90, I listened to all these demos.
Sure.
Which, that was a chore.
Oh, I bet.
Because they're considered rare to collectors, and people are fucking dicks about it. Don't want to share. Don't want to let you know anything. They think that it's going to be worth $1 million, but it's not. Uh-huh. It's bullshit. It's bullshit demos before the band even got good.
Right.
So anyway, I listened to them, and it's like there are too many genres going on in their demos.
And there very much was. And I felt that way about even Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat. But
MFKR,
fine, fair enough. Which I'm bound to fuck up.
I'm going to trip over both versions.
Yep. But anyway, though, so yeah, my introduction to them was we're sitting in this basement room, blazed, listening to this new metal, and I'm just not. I couldn't tell you any other band that was on that compilation disc, but I distinctly remember, as I do looking through liner notes or whatever, and I see this one picture of like this Charles Peterson style photograph. Now, if you're not aware, Charles Peterson was the guy that took all the pictures of Nirvana when they were first starting out. Always real blurry, fucking light beams flashing all over and shit. Just you couldn't make out what was going on, but it was artsy. But anyway, I saw this picture of this Charles Peterson style photograph, and all I could make out in the picture was a clown's face. So of course, curiosity piqued. I said, yeah, who are these guys? And I'll never forget her direct quote was, "Oh, that's Slipknot. They're going to be huge." And that's all I remember about it. And sure enough, it wasn't long after that we hear about this band, Slipknot, from Iowa that got signed. And then I'm really paying attention because they just went fucking supernova. And it was, for a kid who was just playing to 12 people at whatever backyard or fucking venue, quote unquote, if you will, that was amazing that a band from Iowa got signed.
Not only Iowa, but so close to us.
Yes.
So here's a little bit of trivia.
Yeah.
Corey Taylor, when he was like 10, lived in Clear Lake.
I did not know that. Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. I caught it on some interview he had with somebody. He was talking about his life, and he was like, because the guy's had some hardships. If you dig into him as a person,
Oh, absolutely.
And he moved around a lot, and that's one of the places he lived was Clear Lake, and that might explain his connection to your friend.
Oh, okay. And I could see that.
I was going to call her Alexa, but I know that's wrong.
No, Alexis, the connection to her was, there's so many layers to this whole thing. There's so much to unpack, but the connection to her was Smack Dab started off at the same time that my band in high school did. We were called Turbulence. And Smack Dab's first show was actually Turbulence's second show. It was in Duncan, Iowa. And the only fun fact about Duncan, Iowa is Bret Michaels played there twice. The second time on purpose. He wanted to come back. But yeah, so my band played there and her band played there. In fact, I think we opened for them, which we were salty about because it was our second show and just their first. But they took off right away and immediately went to Des Moines and got into that scene to the point where, if I'm not mistaken, the guitar player for Smack Dab, God, I cannot remember his name, and I'm sorry about that, but he was offered the spot that Jim wound up taking in Slipknot. And I think, and it's going to be some hate mail for me if I get this wrong, but I think he turned it down because Smack Dab was on the verge of getting signed and getting big. And Smack Dab, I'll just say about them is they were a band that, yes, they were fucking new metal.
They sure were. Like, you could tell just by looking at them. And they definitely dripped the new metal.
They did.
They looked it, and they sounded like it.
Well, it was their bass player that introduced me to Korn. I'd never heard of Korn. But, yeah, they were new metal as hell. And, I mean, there was very much seemingly a deliberate method to what they were doing. So I remember hearing there's two Smack Dab songs that stand out to me. I couldn't tell you the title of the first one I'm going to reference, but I distinctly remember Alexis, who was incredibly intelligent. I've read her poetry, incredibly poetic, but I remember the lyrics she sang was, row, row, row your boat, and I went, the fuck is this?
That's like some coal chamber shit.
Coal chamber. I was just going to say the roof is on fire and all that. Yeah.
No, they have coal chamber has a song called Rowboat.
Yes, row, row, row your boat. And I remember even hearing that going, no. But then they had another song, and this was the song that I remember hearing and thinking, this is going to be the next band from Iowa to go supernova. And it was a song called The Perfect Time. Now, amongst us bitter metalheads, people were calling it the Mentos song because it was pure pop. Now, like, the verse was, your typical nu metal, funky, whatever, but then the chorus hit like a fucking K-pop fucking anthem. And it was brilliant. I can still remember how it goes. And I thought, if this gets released, what could happen to Smack Dab is Smack Dab's going to get big, and then eventually Alexis is going to offshoot the way Gwen Stefani did and have a career of her own. I really thought that was going to happen to them. But I can't speak for what happened to that band. I don't know what happened to that band. But in the end, though, we are back to Slipknot. And, yeah, so my introduction to Slipknot was Alexis telling me that's Slipknot, they're going to be huge. And sure enough, they were.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool story. I don't have anything near as involved as that. I think I cannot remember when I first heard them or when I first heard about them.
Right.
But I know a couple guys I used to hang out with in high school. We used to drive around because there's nothing to do here.
Nope.
And play that record like a million times. So whether I liked it or not,
right,
I had to hear it.
Yep. And that's...
But, so, I hear it, and then, okay, so this is pre-internet as we know it.
Oh, yeah.
So my source of information were, like, Guitar World magazines and, I don't know, Hit Parade or Metal Edge or whatever.
That was the one
whatever publications. So you'd go to gas stations and bookstores and sit there and loiter and read the magazines. So, I think I heard the music before I saw them.
Okay. I bet that was jarring.
Yeah, so I see, you see them, and they are quite the visual spectacle.
Oh, yeah.
And, I like Gwar.
Sure.
So I'm like, hey, that's probably the coolest thing I've ever seen, because a bunch of dudes in scary masks singing loud, abrasive music is fucking cool.
And I'm a Kiss fan, so
right.
For me, yeah, it was kind of like, okay, the music is of the times, at least the first album was, but there's something that's setting them apart, and it was that fucking visual. And not only that visual, but their live show. Only ever saw them once, and it was Ozfest, God, was it 99? I think it was 99. They were on the second stage. So I'll tell you.
Okay, yeah, so I also saw them one time in 2001.
Oh, all
so I've seen a lot of the 99 footage that's out there.
Right.
And, like, there's something to be said about seeing that band in the Midwest June heat.
Yeah.
In broad daylight watching Slipknot play.
Yeah. They were absolutely insane. And you could not help but, even if you didn't get sucked into it, you noticed it.
Oh, of course. So, second stage is rather small. Like, so where did you go see Ozfest?
It would have been Somerset, Wisconsin, I believe.
Okay, so I saw them. I went to 2001 Ozfest in Tinley Park.
All right.
So that's like an amphitheater, kind of.
Okay.
So there's like a big hill that's like general admission, and then there's kind of like a seated part before the stage.
Okay.
So of course, I can't afford the seated part.
Right.
So we're in the general admission, and so this is main stage, by the way. At this point, 2001, their main stage.
By that
Ozfest.
point, yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know how many people were in the crowd, but it was a metric fuck ton. And as soon as they started playing, it was the biggest mosh pit I've ever seen.
Right.
Ever, other than when Metallica played Moscow.
Okay. And I could see that.
Like, you had guys that had like a good 50 to 100 feet or more space to run at each other.
Oh, all right.
Huge.
That sounds about right. But, okay, so... All right.
So, like I was saying, I was intrigued by the masks.
Right.
More so by their masks than the music at that point.
And for me, I was more intrigued by the fact that they were from Iowa.
Well, yeah. But like I said, like I like their image. I really don't care too much for their self-titled. There's a few songs on there that I like.
And I'm gonna say it. Neither do I. I used to describe it, and this isn't even in a derogatory way. Just covering my ass here, but it's true. I used to describe Slipknot as headache music because it was so fucking relentless. It was so heavy. It was so abrasive, very much a Ross Robinson produced type of thing, scratches, warts, and all, that it didn't let up. And that didn't make it bad, but it just made it just like you had to be in a rage-filled state of mind to really appreciate it. And if you weren't,
of course,
it was going to just be like, God damn, I got to go back to something else.
And when you're a teenager, when you're a male teenager,
right, that
was all the aggression you could possibly need.
Oh, by far, absolutely. I mean, it's like, for me, in the 90s, late 90s, my band was Pantera. But the thing about Pantera is Pantera had hooks, There was a certain accessibility to them, even in Trendkill. Whereas Slipknot seemed to, in hindsight, obviously they had song structure and they had good songs. They had Corey Taylor who could fucking sing, but they were just fucking abrasive. I mean, visually and sonically. They were the band that just fucking destroyed you and mutilated you. Which has its place, but at the time, I just called it headache music because you listen to this shit too long, you're going to get a headache. And that's not saying anything bad about it, but that's what I called it, at least that self-titled debut. By the time you get to Volume 3, which we'll get into in a moment, I was sold, and then I became a fan.
Yeah, so, like I said, I love the image. It's scary stuff. It's cool stuff. They were, in their early days, they were really elusive. Like, they wouldn't take photos. Oh, they would take photos with fans.
Right.
But they'd, put their hand in the way, or they'd cover up part of their face.
And they were the last band to benefit from pre-internet.
Right.
Because people were wondering, what do they look like without the mask? You remember that Battle for Ozfest show MTV or MTV2 had?
Vaguely.
Oh, God, it was... First of all, it was one of the times I remember not really rooting for anybody because I couldn't stand any of the bands. They were all new metal, but the first episode and the first guy that got kicked off was some heavier guy in one of the bands who told some fucking bimbo, yeah, I'm the clown without the mask on. And the thing is, that could work back then because still nobody knew what the guy looked like. They were the last band to benefit from that. Because soon after the internet really blew up, it wasn't a big thing to know what Corey Taylor looked like or fucking Jim Root. All of a sudden everybody knew. But they did play that mystique as long as they could, and that was brilliant.
That was brilliant. So back to their masks, and I hate to just beat this into the ground, but
it's part of them.
You
kind of have to.
And like I said, I find some of the mask and the mask history more intriguing than some of their songs. Okay. And there are people out there who are mask collectors.
Oh, sure.
And not just Slipknot mask collectors, but just in general, like horror movie masks. Like Buckethead. And like Buckethead also used masks.
Yes.
Obviously, well, Buckethead, I have never seen what he actually looks like.
I've seen one picture of him,
and it's probably really grainy and blurry.
Kind of looks like Marty Friedman.
Well, you could tell that by his hair anyway.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's the hair.
Anyway, so like Buckethead also does kind of the mask thing and and the theatrical performance. Like he has a lot of stage props and
So you ever read about him in the studio?
Yeah, he's kind of an odd duck.
Axl Rose had to not only build him a chicken coop with live chickens that could shit in there so he could get the aroma of the chicken shit while he was playing, had to take him to Disneyland to appease him, but drew the line when he walked into his chicken coop and saw him watching hardcore porn on an endless loop because it inspired him. And not just any hardcore porn. We're talking about, like, he had a real thing for watching underage-looking Asians get pummeled by John Holmes Cox. I don't know what that says about your personality, but I don't know if I like it. And that's where Axl drew the line and said, you can't watch this anymore.
Is it art?
God, how do you define art?
Doing it for the sake of art? I don't know.
Doing it for the sake of art. That's why I've watched porn. It's for art.
He's just a weird dude.
Well, we're all weird.
But anyway, there are people out there that collect those kind of masks.
All right.
So I've recently discovered this. Like, I used to not give it a second thought, but like there are people who are concerned what they made their Slipknot made their original masks out of. So like there are terminologies.
Oh my God, we've gone this far down.
So and I only know some of this because I have a Michael Myers Halloween mask, right? And it's called a Don Post mask because that's the artist that made the sculpture and made the mask. Okay, so there's like a ton of terminology like that to describe these Slipknot masks.
All right.
So I'm not going to get into it real heavy. I think it's intriguing.
Sure.
And it's pretty cool.
Right.
But there's a guy out there in internet land, and I'm going to name drop him and leave his information below because it is very cool, and he covers like every era of Slipknot member and their masks. But his name is AJ Good.
AJ Good.
Of the House of Masks.
House of Masks.
And it is really cool stuff.
Okay.
Really, like, just, if you're like, hey, like, if you were ever like, what the hell is Corey Taylor's mask from Self-Titled? He actually had two, and one of them was a crash test dummy. Do you remember those guys?
Yeah. Well,
crash test dummy mask, I think, flipped inside out, and like the eye holes cut and the mouth cut.
Okay.
And he poked his dreadlocks through.
Huh.
So like he ran with that for a while, and then that mask must have deteriorated.
I didn't think I was going to be interested in this at all, but
it is interesting. And I'll just touch a little bit on it because, like I said, AJ Good, this is the guy that you wanted explaining this to you.
Sure.
So then Corey Taylor's second self-titled mask is what's called a ghost glow.
Okay.
And it was like a glow in the dark, and it looked like a burlap, kind of smiley, weird-looking scarecrow mask that cut the eyes weird and cut the mouth crooked and poked his dreadlocks through.
Huh. Now, okay, I got to ask the stupidest fanboy question yet. Were those Corey Taylor's dreadlocks, or were they attached to the mask?
So originally, like I believe, and I'm sure somebody could correct me, the crash test dummy era of his mask, he poked them through. He had dreadlocks.
Did he really? I never knew that.
Yep, he had dreadlocks, and he would poke them through when they would perform. And I think after a while, either he was like, "This fucking sucks,"
sure,
but he shaved his head, and then he like glued them to his mask.
All right.
So that's kind of interesting.
That actually is very interesting.
And the sample guy, Craig, the guy with the nails.
Oh, the nail guy, yes.
So that's not a snowmobile helmet.
I never knew.
I for the longest time I was like, that's like a full face helmet, right?
Sure.
It's actually not. It's a combination of things, and it's a really bizarre combination of things.
I always thought that particular mask was the most involved of any of them. All those nails.
Yeah. So, all right. So here we go down the math with the masks. So,
shall we get back then?
No, real quick. You want to know about it?
Oh, yeah.
We'll get back to this. So it's a children's astronaut mask helmet. It's a children's astronaut helmet with a military-style gas mask over the front. And then it has like these 9-inch roofing nails or something poked through it. So
okay, it's more involved than even I thought.
Yeah.
Okay,
kind
that's
of interesting.
A pretty cool tidbit, I gotta admit.
So anyway, AJ Good, House of Masks.
All right, but okay, so where were we at? Okay, introduction to Slipknot. I already gave you mine. You gave me yours. So what's gonna be the next part of this episode?
I don't know. I wanted to cover MFKR, but then I was like, this kind of sucks, and nobody cares.
Right.
Nobody cares about a band that's not the band that you actually know.
Sure.
There's a lot of different, versions of songs that turned into other songs.
Yep.
But I just want to know how they got. So I listened to all the demos.
Right.
And they are really reminiscent of what local bands were sounding like at the time.
Yeah.
I want to know how they went from that to their self-titled, which sounded a lot tighter.
Yeah.
And a lot more focused. Like who do you think took them under their wing and went, "Hey, you know what, guys? Why don't you try this?"
I think probably Ross Robinson.
Well, see, they didn't originally record with Ross Robinson. They recorded like this Indigo studio.
Which is Ross Robinson.
Is it?
Yeah, that's his.
Was it?
Indigo Ranch, yeah. Max Cavalera recorded Soulfly there.
All
that's right. Ross Robinson, dude.
Forgive my ignorance on that.
Ignorance, please. But no, I think I can't say if it was Ross Robinson or if maybe they got signed and said, okay, we can do our thing now.
I don't think they did their thing on their first record.
I don't either, and that's the whole thing. Is where
So there's a lot of... So I chose to listen to the Indigo recording session as opposed to the Roadrunner released session. I have the Roadrunner one.
Okay.
It's the like the original Digipack or whatever CD.
Yep.
So anyway, the reason I chose that is because the Indigo sessions, you can hear some of the other 9 members better in the mix.
Ah, okay.
So like, I think that was sort of, so you got 9 members in the band, right?
Yep.
And it's like, what does a 9-member band sound like? Does it sound like mushy crap? Does it sound good?
Sure.
Like that was one of the other things to my introduction to the band was that, hey, there's 9 members. What the hell does this sound like?
Well, and that definitely piqued my interest when they first came up. It was obvious that for the stage show, the 9 members worked, but even I was wondering, how do you put this to tape? 3 different percussionists. You got a sampler and a DJ. Where do you go with this? And somehow they did, and that's where I think when you talk about how Slipknot evolved, to me, the thing that I find really hilarious is the people that will argue that they were never a nu metal band. And let's just say you're only hearing from the debut on. People that will argue they were never a nu metal band. I read a book about death metal one time, and Slipknot was included in it. And I can't remember who said it.
Not to cut you off, I'm sorry.
By all means.
Mick, number 7 in the band, is like a death metal fan.
Jesus, take one look at him and you can tell that.
Well, of course, he's like the most death metal looking guy. He's got like the man in the iron mask on his face.
Yep.
But like you can kind of hear it in his riffs too.
Oh, sure.
But yeah, it's weird. So it's like there's death metal in the band, and then they've got like that weird secondary percussion going on.
Yep.
And it's just like, it shouldn't work, but it works.
Well, and that's the beauty of Slipknot, is they made things that should not have worked work. And that's where the thing that I find hilarious about people saying, oh, excuse me, and they were never a nu metal band. Okay. There are a few tells that as far as that 99 album went, and keep in mind, the full disclaimers, they progressed beyond that. But the 99 demo and their live show in 99, there are a few different tells about that. Now, if you watch them live, you could see the guitar players doing that. I can only describe it as that Korn bent over at the waist headbanging thing.
Yeah, you're like your whole upper body.
Yes.
That is definitely a nu metal visual. Yes, I will admit.
And they were doing that.
And their coverall jumpsuits.
Yep, which I believe it was Monkey who had that first.
They were like oversized.
Yep.
The very baggy thing is definitely looks like nu metal to me.
And that was a Monkey thing from Korn. He originally had that.
Yeah, he was pretty baggy.
But yeah, the bent over at the waist headbanging, the fact that they had
I'll give you that for the nu metal.
There's more.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
And the more comes in the fact that they had a DJ and a sampler in their band.
Right.
That is nu metal.
Sure.
Somebody scratching records and somebody...
Like the DJ, but the sampler could be like... kind of reminded me of like Fear Factory a little bit.
Oh, sure. And
obviously White Zombie, they use a lot of samples like that.
But that's the whole thing is nu metal and industrial, they're different, but they were the same period of time. It was kind of the same thing of, I guess in my opinion, we don't want to play guitar solos, so what can we put in place of that? How can we fill out the sound?
And I'm wondering, because some of the earlier demo-y stuff from Slipknot did have guitar solo.
Sure.
Not every song, but there were guitars, so there was prominent guitar work.
Right.
So I wonder if that was like a Ross Robinson,
I bet it was.
Like this is the time period we're in. Yeah. Why don't we ride this trend or ride this wave, and we'll cut that useless guitar solo out.
Yep, and that's what I feel happened to them. In fact, I know the clown, Sean, fucking hates that Ross Robinson produced first album.
Well, that's good, because I guess we're kind of on the same page then, because while it's important for them as a band because it broke them out.
And it did.
It's just not something that I would say it's my favorite.
See, and I don't listen to it just because it's so new metal. And the thing that
it is. I can see and hear the new metal influence, but it's not so much that I won't listen to it.
Right.
Because there's also like real metal in there. Real metal. I sound like a dick.
No. I see what you're saying. But yeah, for me, the biggest new metal tell about that band wasn't so much the DJ and the sampler. It wasn't even so much the bending over at the waist headbanging. It was, okay, for all the nice crack of the beer on the mic. I think I'll take a pull of the old vodka while I'm at it, so hold on.
Sorry for the interruption.
No, that was a good one. But
this podcast is brought to you by alcohol.
Coors Light and New Amsterdam vodka. But no, the biggest new metal tell for me was, okay, for all the great things I've said about Corey Taylor, and I absolutely mean him, I do feel that the guy is fucking brilliant. In fact, I accidentally heard Stone Sour cover Unchained. Not knowing who was covering it, just heard the song and went, Jesus, this is fucking great.
Did I share that with you?
No, I heard it on the radio.
Okay, Stone Sour.
Yeah.
I know I've shared with you like the little jam things that Corey will do.
And those were great. To Take Your Whiskey Home was the one.
Oh, my God. Well, that did feature John Five as the guitar player.
Yep.
And who was on bass?
Oh, shit.
Michael Anthony.
Yeah, that's right.
And Corey Taylor came out, and he was doing those David Lee Roth.
Yes!
High-pitched, squealy things.
And he was fucking brilliant at it.
Oh, it was so good.
But yeah, so for all the good things to say about Corey Taylor, and there are many, there's one thing. This is what made Slipknot, at least the debut album, new metal. And also keep in mind, this song was my introduction to them. That was the one that was on the compilation disc, Spit It Out. There's one line, very much like we talked about in the first episode, that jarred me out of whatever I was into.
Here we go, because this is a song you dislike.
No, I like the song. That's the damn thing.
Okay, it's one of my favorites, actually.
I like the song.
Spit It Out.
That song was the essence of everything that made Slipknot great. You had every bit of it. You had the percussion, the samples, and everything else, the riff and all of this. And Corey Taylor's chorus, that's how I remembered him, was that chorus.
Yeah.
Spit it out. All you want is like, holy shit.
There's some really, really good pieces on that album.
But there's one particular line, one particular part that never sat right with me. And it was, okay, when I say they were new metal, or at least that album was new metal, it's because, number one, Corey Taylor was rapping in that song.
I love that part.
You could say that he was talking about, no, he was rapping.
No, he was full-on rapping, and it wasn't like new metal rapping. It was more like,
Suicidal Tendencies rapping?
Maybe. It was like, it seemed, once again, I'm going to sound like a musical dick. It was like real rapping.
Right, and I got you, but there was one line lyrically that bothered me. The line is, and I quote, "Bury your ass with the chrome straight to the dome." Okay, first of all, what the fuck does that mean? I could get bury your ass, probably kicking somebody's ass. With the chrome, okay, maybe bury them in a junkyard. What the fuck does straight to the dome mean? What the fuck does that mean?
Let me educate you, Josh. That means straight to the dome means hit you in the head.
Bury your ass with the chrome straight. Okay, you just solved that mystery. But that bothered me because it's like, okay, you cannot say you're not new metal when you have a line like that in your song. You could have taken that line and put it in a Limp Bizkit song. You could have taken that line and put it in a Primer 55 song or an E-Town Concrete song. It would have fit perfectly. That's the one thing that bothered me is do not say you were never new metal when you rap a line like that.
So I was just checking my notes because I made a lot of notes from the demos.
God, am I going to get shit for that little tirade? But seriously, that line, from the moment I heard it, bothered me.
You don't have to like everything.
No, I don't. And it's like I'm not talking shit. Like I said, Slipknot, great band and everything else. But that fucking line always bothered me.
Yes.
Always. Still does.
So like I said, I took some notes on their demo stuff. And like I made note on what made it to their self-titled, and I thought that was one of the songs, but it's not. So that's
Spit It Out wasn't?
No, that was. I don't think that was any other place on their demos. Okay. I think that must have been a full-on original.
Right.
Actually, I think it was on their demo that got released before or what got them signed to Roadrunner Records.
Because
they had a 5-song demo.
Because on that compilation, that was the song.
Spit It Out, yeah.
Yep, and it, like I said, I can't help it. It stuck with me, but except that line.
So that
That
must have
line.
so like there were some, like you're saying, there are some odd sounding lyrics
Sure.
that came over from the MFKR days because I think Clown wrote the lyrics. So then Corey was given liberty to rewrite some of the lyrics, and obviously, you've got an original member, Clown being an original member.
Yes.
Probably was like, I don't mind you rewriting the lyrics, but can you keep the melody the same or the
Right.
or the cadence the same?
Which is not unreasonable at all.
Right. So I thought that was the case, but that might actually be like a straight up Corey Taylor deal.
Okay.
I'm not 100% on that.
Right.
But I like that song because that song is very angry.
It is, and it was the perfect distillation of everything that was Slipknot, at least to me. You had the Slipknot riff, which is very much a da-da-da-da-da-da. And then fucking, you had the DJ turntables, you had the samples. Just literally everything about Slipknot, in my opinion, came out in that song. And a lot of it was the aggressively barked fucking verse, even the rapping, which worked in that context, even though that line, But then the chorus, when you heard Corey Taylor doing the clean singing, even when I first heard that, I thought, this is going to go supernova because this guy can sing and they have got melodies.
Oh, yeah.
So, and that, in my opinion, is what helped them blow up the way they did, because without that, they damn well could have been a Guar-style band that would have had a cult following, maybe even would have brushed with greatness at some point. But, I don't want to lay it all on one member, but I think even by their own admission, they needed to take it to the next level, and that's when they got Corey Taylor and his singing ability.
Definitely. And I know, like I said, I deep dived on this one, and I saw the live footage. There's shaky hand the handy cam footage of Corey Taylor's first show.
Really?
With Slipknot, 1997.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Bit like pre-masks. Like back when Anders was still in the band, the original singer, because
didn't he have the leather bondage mask?
No. So maybe not a lot of people know this, but Slipknot had two vocalists for a short period of time. The original guy from MFKR, and then they brought Corey in, and they were like, "Well, we're just going to rock two vocalists."
And that's right. That's what they were originally going to do.
So I've seen the footage.
What'd you think of it? 'Cause I've not seen this.
Well, it's very messy.
Sure.
It sounds like 9 members playing.
Right.
Was it 9 then? It was probably 9. They didn't have Sid Wilson on the DJ. I don't think they had him at that time. 1997, they probably didn't.
He was the last one to join, wasn't he?
That could be true.
I think he was, because he made it a point to headbutt one of them.
Clown.
Yep, and when he went into the crowd, and that was how he was going to get in the band.
Yeah, he made a statement by punching Clown in his big fat mouth.
Well, and it fucking worked. But yeah, so
anyway, no, it wasn't Anders did not wear a bondage mask, but he had, it was like leather pants, no shirt, and electrical tape, some weird shit on his face.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of, the electrical tape.
All right. So if anybody out there has watched Clerks 2,
oh Christ, sexy stud.
He reminded me of the sexy stud.
Actually, my ex-wife was friends with the guy who played Sexy Stud.
That is amazing.
And I watched that movie with her, and the first time she saw Sexy Stud, she about threw up. Oh my God, Bob, is that you? I'm like, that's him, dear.
Good on you, Bob.
Yeah, well, she did the LA thing of wanting to be an actress and all this stuff, but she met some colorful characters along the way, one of them being James Franco. She wants house sat for him watching his cats.
That sounds boring.
Well, the only thing she could make out about James Franco was that he was very weird. And I kind of looked at her and said, I think you mean stoned. I think he was very stoned. She had no knowledge of any of this. First time she ever smelled pot, she didn't know what it was. So no offense if you're listening to this.
Yeah, James Franco, no offense to you.
No, I meant my ex.
Oh,
I don't think James Franco gives a fuck what I think.
So, do you know what else I found odd about this record?
Yeah, what's that?
There's 15 songs.
Right.
That seemed awfully long.
For a debut.
For a debut.
Yeah, but also keep in mind, this is when people were really figuring out how much you could jam into a CD.
Okay, yeah. Probably.
And maybe Slipknot thought well, we may only get one shot at this.
You know
so
what?
let's
That could very well be it.
throw it all
Maybe
in there.
they were like, this is our one-time deal. Let's just put all our ideas on tape.
And that's where we definitely are going to get into the next part of this particular episode.
I wanted to mention.
Sure.
So the first track is just, just noise, the
Yeah.
DJ noises and samples.
Right.
It sounds like, I don't know, it sounds like Corey throwing up forward and backwards. And
It probably was.
And it says, this whole thing I think is sick, over and over. So the track title is a number.
Yep.
So I've read that it was that number is the barcode off of MFKR.
Oh, okay.
So, you know who else did that?
Henry Rollins.
Fear Factory.
Fear Factory, yes.
In 1995.
90
Fear Factory's
Their
record.
first album was 95?
They got signed in 92.
Really?
Yeah.
God damn.
Yep. Josh, we're old.
I was just going to say, are you going to say it or am I going to say it? And while we're on the topic of new metal bands or whatever, I'm just going to say here now, fucking loved Fear Factory.
I'm thinking that's probably twice we've mentioned them in this podcast.
Probably, but no, I loved Fear Factory. I thought they were...
Oh, yeah.
Well, very much like Corey Taylor really brought to platinum fucking levels. They did the fucking scream and clean vocals.
Yes.
Really, I think before anybody else.
Perhaps.
Burton C. Bell, fucking brilliant.
And they used triggers in their drums.
They did, yep.
Which I don't necessarily like. I think it sounds like an angry typewriter.
It does. And that's what they wanted.
Well, yeah, they
Machine.
they purposely did that.
But
I'm just saying in general, whenever I hear bands, even modern bands,
right.
with that style of double kick, it's a typewriter.
Yep.
And I'm bored with it.
Right, and I'm with you the same way. In fact, I remember the one thing about Fear Factory I didn't care for was keeping in mind, I'm a kid that grew up on Zeppelin and fucking Judas Priest and whatever it may have been, and even Pantera all had guitar solos, and that's the one thing I first noticed about Fear Factory is there isn't a single guitar solo in any of this, which was what they wanted. That's what they shot for, but that just kind of left me on the island a bit. It's like, why is this like just taboo to play fucking guitar solos?
Well, how do you think I felt? So,
But yeah, you being a guitarist.
So I primarily play guitar, and I've been playing for a long time.
Yeah.
Right around the time nu metal was popular is
Oh.
kind of when
That had to have been horrible for
It's
you.
kind of it was because I never latched on to nu metal. I never bought into it because my guitar heroes are Tony Iommi and James Hetfield.
And this is a perfect segue to anybody listening to this wondering how me and Chad met, why the fuck we have all these inside jokes and shit. The first time you and I met, I was working at a telemarketing place and sitting across from this guy wearing a Zildjian shirt. Now, I'm looking for bands, so I figured this guy's got to be a drummer. Talked to him. He said, yeah, I'm a drummer. I said, well, I know a bass player. You know anybody who can play guitar? He's like, yeah, I know this guy named Chad. I said, all right, cool. Well, let's meet Saturday at the mall because that's metal, right? But
It just so happened to be my birthday, my 18th birthday.
right. And I remember walking in with the bass player, a friend of mine, and I was like, all right, well, where is this guy? And all of a sudden, I see this dude walking. He's got long red hair and the beginnings of a goatee, wearing a BLS, Black Label Society shirt. It said, there is no way it's not that guy. So we met, hey, Chad, Josh, and all this. Get down to your basement. And I remember distinctly the first question I asked you was, can you play leads? Thinking, oh, it's going to be another dead end. I'm like, and I think you said something like, yeah, how's this? And you ripped this fucking lead. I'm like, I don't give a fuck what happens. I'm joining a band with this guy. And that's how we met.
Yep, a little bit of guitar prowess gets you pretty far.
Well, it did with me because nobody else was playing leads at the time.
Yeah, it was not. Yeah, I was the lead guitar player in every band I was in.
Right.
And I would not play a guitar solo.
Yep.
And that's why I'm not speaking like a failed musician.
Aren't we though, in a way?
Of course we are.
All right.
Anyway.
Just so we're on the same page.
Yeah, whatever.
Here.
I've come to terms with that a long time ago.
No, I'm still clutching like grim death.
Yeah, that's why a lot of bands I was in didn't work out because they wanted to do the nu metal thing.
Right, and that's why I didn't work out with any of the bands I was in because I refused to rap. I didn't want to not wash my hair and get dreadlocks, wear fucking cargo pants, and I wanted a guitar player who could play fucking leads. So that's our backstory. Now back to Slipknot.
Oh, yeah.
Where were we at?
I don't know. I didn't want to go track by track on this one because
I'm not gonna.
There's so many.
I don't even want to go track by track. I want to talk about Slipknot in general. I want
Yeah.
to talk about albums overall, how they progressed. Because I can tell you, for me,
How do you feel about Wait and Bleed? Because
interesting.
that is arguably the most popular song. Might be their most popular song. It's the gateway song for many.
Interesting you should bring that up because I actually wrote that down in my notes. The moment that I knew Slipknot was global, they were massive, they were beyond Iowa, it would had to have been 2001. I was up in Toronto. Don't ask why. I don't want to get into it. But I was up in Toronto and went to a club, and I don't remember what the overall theme of the club was. I just know the room I was in was supposed to be the quote-unquote rock room or whatever the fuck. And I'm in the crowd. I'm drinking Molson Canadian, which is just terrific. And all of a sudden, Wait and Bleed comes on. And keep in mind, I wasn't even really a fan of the band. But as soon as Wait and Bleed came on, I screamed at the top of my lungs, "Fuck yeah, Slipknot, fucking Iowa!" And that's when I was like, holy shit, Iowa is fucking global. And even though I'm not connected with the band, I don't know any of them, I felt pride. I was like, holy shit, I'm in fucking Canada, and they are listening to a band from Iowa in a club. And I just thought that was the coolest fucking moment, you know?
So not many people will know this about me, but I'm not an Iowa native.
You're an Illinois native.
I am. I've lived here a long time. I feel the same way.
Right.
It was like, yes, something cool from Iowa that's not pork industry related.
Right. But yeah, that was the level of pride I felt. It was like, holy shit.
Well, even more so that it's like we were probably 2 steps behind them.
Oh, for sure.
You know, like our paths could have crossed.
Right.
I've heard rumor, and I would love to know if it was true.
Okay.
But there used to be on the north end of town here was a bingo place.
Yep.
I heard like a pre-Corey Slipknot played there.
Really?
Yeah.
That wasn't the community kitchen, was it?
No, that's a different part of town.
Right.
It's like a karate place now.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Yeah. I wouldn't doubt it. I mean,
And you know, and some of the other local bands that we've been around, like
right.
also played with some of the same people they played with, like
Sure.
American Head Charge.
Yep.
There's
Okay.
a local. They're not a band anymore. They disbanded a long time ago.
Who were they?
Caplata.
Yeah, I remember Caplot, of course. I used to drink with Zach.
Yeah, so I guess they were going to play like one of those American Legion shows with American Head Charge, but then American Head Charge was like, "Hey, we can't make it. We've been signed to a record label."
And that explains Zach's attachment to American Head Charge when their first album came out.
Yeah, because they were, what were they, like a Minneapolis band?
They were. And
I saw them. I also saw them.
See, I never saw them.
They opened Ozfest the year I went.
That's right. That would have been around that time. But yeah, so yeah, that moment in Toronto was when I really realized just how big this band was, and I felt proud of it. But that's where you start going back to, what one of the points of this podcast was going to be, for me anyway, was the impact that Slipknot had on Iowa, which we're from Iowa. We're in Iowa talking about this.
And most importantly, we were in bands.
And
at this time period, they became famous.
And that's exactly right. We were in bands. We were maybe not in the Des Moines scene, but we were part of a scene. You know, at the time, we were playing shows every weekend. You know, you and I in different bands.
Going to shows, playing shows.
Yeah, it was a scene. It was just self-generated. It's self-sustained. And I guess for my part, the one thing I'll say is, for you when you pick up a guitar, for me when I picked up a guitar, realized I couldn't play it and picked up a microphone instead, there is, to varying degrees, but still that underlying dream of either I'm going to be a rock star or it'd be cool to be a rock star or something like that. But you're in Iowa, so it's a far away dream. It's like, okay, I'll go play rock star for the weekend, but I'm going to go back to school or go to my job or whatever. When Slipknot got signed, there was a very real hope that I don't care who you are, every single one of us felt. All of a sudden it went from, Iowa Nobody Cares to somebody from Iowa got signed. And not only got signed, but got signed to Roadrunner, this label that had all these bands that we loved. Fear Factory, Typo Negative,
There's countless bands.
Yes. And they got signed. So every one of us, in some way, you can confirm it or deny it, but I'll speak for myself. When that happened, I thought, this isn't a pipe dream anymore. There's hope here. This could really happen. And I was excited. I thought, this is fucking great. And then about a year went by. Their first album hit in 99. Around about 2000. I can remember every one of us is going out there playing shows with just this new fire now. It's like, not only are we doing this, but maybe there's a possibility. Look, it happened to Slipknot, right? I think it was June 2000, and the new issue of Metal Edge came out, and Slipknot was on the cover. So I immediately bought it and thought, all right, I got to see what these guys are going to have to say, It's kind of like seeing your third cousins or something in a magazine, because that's how close-knit the Iowa scene was, Even if you didn't know each other, it would just be, oh, Bob from Iowa? Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, this issue came out, and the question was something to the effect of, how has being from Des Moines had a lot to do with your development? And they go on. And the thing that stood out to me was, I remember, and this is where it gets touchy because the quote comes from Paul Gray, who has been gone for the last 10 years. He died. And it said, and I'm just going to read this quote unquote, in regards to people looking in Des Moines for new talent. He said, "It's weird. It's almost impossible to get A&R people to Iowa. Half the people don't even know where it is. Iowa, isn't that the potato state? No, it's corn country. No one wants to go to Des Moines for the weekend." Finally, Ross Robinson came out and said that regardless of the label, turning pages here, he'll do the record. Now there are people looking all over Iowa for bands, but there's just the one and only. People were hoping it would be the next new Mecca, but it's only us. There are a few good blues bands here, though. And when I read that, I'm 20 years old.
Joshua Lee spit in his magazine.
Actually, not that one. I kept that magazine, and I kept it for a reason. Because when I read that, I was 20 years old. I'm playing shows maybe once a month if I'm lucky. I'm welding for a living. And at that point, I just thought, what have you done? What have you done? You basically just said, stay away from Iowa. Don't even bother. Now, a lot has been said about this over the years. And I can't speak for the Des Moines scene because I wasn't there. I hadn't made it there yet. But
not to cut you off.
Yeah, please.
Real quick. So, there were a few bands, that were probably on par with Slipknot.
Sure.
One of them being On a Pale Horse.
Yep. And Smack Dab was one of them.
And Smack Dab, yeah.
35-inch mutter.
So, I believe Stone Sour thanks On a Pale Horse in their liner notes.
Sure.
So like my buddy, my next door neighbor, my buddy that I grew up with,
right?
His cousin was the bass player in On a Pale Horse.
Okay.
And I believe that's where Josh Brainerd went after Slipknot was On a Pale Horse. It was.
But yeah, so I read that quote, and I just remember, and I'm having to go back 20 years to what that was like. I just remember this mixture of every negative emotion you could possibly feel. Because, being where I'm at right now, it's laughable and everything else. Life is what it is. But at the time, I was 20. And it was like somebody just, it's like they went out of their way to, and taking it personally, crush my dream. And not only my dream, but everybody else. It was like, I hold this belief that Slipknot did not owe anybody anything. But it was kind of the difference between walking away from somebody hanging off a cliff or taking your boot and pushing them off it. And it was years later that a film that as far as I know, has never seen release called A Clown Short of Destiny was made. And I've managed to come across a couple different clips from it. And the one clip I come across is the only one that I've seen is actually Alexis from Smack Dab talking about it. Now, clearly somebody had an issue because it used to show footage of her saying this, but now it's just like a black screen with her voice. But the way she put it was, to paraphrase, what they did was basically put a blindfold over the whole state of Iowa. And the scene just kind of died after that. Now, I don't know about the Des Moines scene. Once again, I wasn't there, but I remember that weekend. I got that magazine probably on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Went to band practice that weekend, and that was all we talked about, was that one article, that one quote. What the hell? Why did he do that? And furthermore, why did nobody else in the band kind of interject and say, well, come on, there might be something else. So in that regard, no, I don't think Slipknot owed anybody anything. I think they made it, and they made it through their own talent, their own drive. I think they absolutely deserved the success they got. But that one gesture, that one quote, and I was actually asking my wife what she thought about it, because she wasn't in the scene. She didn't know anything about it at the time. So she read that, and she said, well, looks like nobody had a chance after that. And I thought, you're right. Now, that's not to say that, having talked to you about it, you've said, well, maybe all the bands did suck, or maybe there wasn't anything to stand out. And you're probably right. But at the same time, look at what happened in Seattle. Did anybody from Seattle say, don't come here?
Yeah, don't come back.
Did anybody from LA? Actually, one person from LA did. Kevin Dubrow was one of the most hated people in the industry. And he was hated because of one particular article that they asked him, are there any other bands in LA that are any good? Do you like any of them? And he just said, none of them. They all suck. He just went to try to talk shit about everybody. And he wound up being hair metal's biggest asshole because of that. That didn't happen to Slipknot. No. Everybody nationwide ignored it, because why would you pay attention to Iowa? But everybody from Iowa felt that. Basically, they were the one shot that maybe they'll come here and look for something else. And of course, 20 years later, they didn't. So Slipknot got to be the only band from Iowa. Now, before you stay stone sour, yeah, Corey Taylor, God bless him, got his band and gave them a chance, which is great. But they were Corey Taylor's band. None of the other bands, and I mean, I couldn't imagine being in...
Okay, so Stone Sour came out in what, 2001?
That album, yes.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, they were a band way before that. Actually, that's...
Corey Taylor's band.
Yeah, they Slipknot.
Him and Jim Root.
Slipknot won a Battle of the Bands.
Yep.
This was pre-Corey Taylor, and Stone Sour played the same Battle of the Bands and lost out to them.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah. Yeah. But they weren't that huge at the time.
No.
Slipknot was not that huge at the time when Stone Sour came out.
Right. What? Wait. Are you talking Stone Sour 2001?
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
Well,
Slipknot was massive.
Yeah. Okay.
They were on the cover of Rolling Stone by that point. Chad, they were massive. They were Roadrunner's first platinum band.
You know what? I'll give you that, because I think Iowa had already come out by then.
And they were massive by the time Iowa came out.
Yeah, they were.
Dude, that debut album of theirs was Roadrunner's first platinum album. They blew up and fast, and they deserved to. That was the problem that I had, was not begrudging them their success, but the fact that, and not even saying, oh, they owe us, because they didn't owe us, but that they went out of their way to hinder us. That's the problem I had. Now, like you've brought up, and you're absolutely right, who knows what Paul was under the influence of when he said that?
Well, I'm not saying he was under the influence, but I think the point I was trying to make was, that's the kind of stuff you say when you're rubbing it in.
Well, by influence, I don't mean chemical. I mean just influence in general.
Oh, sure.
You're
okay.
high on the hog, man.
You're rubbing it into the people that thought you were shit.
But the thing about Slipknot is, within Des Moines...
Yeah, it could hinder the people that actually helped you.
But within Des Moines, from the people I've spoken to, nobody thought they were shit. Everybody was in it together. every one of them had like an unspoken pact that whoever makes it out of here, we're going to help. I mean, for Christ's sakes, Bon Jovi helped Skid Row get out.
Let me just say, let me add a comment to that quote you read.
Sure.
I just want to say, what fucking blues bands?
Right. I kind of thought the same thing when I read that the first time, but I don't know if that was just...
we're 20 years later, and the thing that comes to mind is, what fucking blues bands?
Well, and I almost wonder if he wasn't taking the piss when he said that.
Right.
Oh, there's nothing good here, but look for the blues bands. Ha ha. But yeah, that was the whole damn thing. Is like, back to my Bon Jovi reference, which I have to finish. Why would you bring them up? John Bon Jovi and Dave Sabo from Skid Row were childhood friends. And they had made a pact that whoever makes it first, we're going to help the other get there. And you know what? Say what you will about Bon Jovi, he fucking did that. Why was that so hard for anybody in Slipknot to do that? That's the upsetting thing to me. Not that they owed anybody anything. They certainly didn't owe me anything. I didn't know any of them. But to go out of your way and say, don't bother, there's no other way to put it. That is a dick move. And yeah, like I said, when I read that article, I kept the magazine thinking, I'm never going to forget this. Because quite frankly, you know what? It probably never would have happened. Because, I mean, a lot of the bands that were on at the time were very much nu metal. They were very much of the times, and maybe they did or didn't stand out. But who's to say there wasn't a diamond in the rough somewhere in Iowa that somebody could have found? But no, they went out of their way to say, don't bother. So already they've got in their head, leave it alone. Whereas you had fucking Mudvayne came out of Illinois. American Head Charge came out of Minneapolis. The Midwest was the next thing. Seattle had their moment.
I don't think there was ever a time the Midwest wasn't a thing because Smashing Pumpkins came from Chicago.
I don't count Chicago as the Midwest. Chicago is its own fucking thing.
Well, I lived near Chicago for a portion of my life, so I take that comment to heart, Josh. I feel they're Midwestern.
No, they are Midwestern, but they're also a major metropolitan area.
That's very true.
That's what I'm saying. Not that that Chicago's not Midwest. I'm wearing a Chicago shirt for
No,
God's sake, but
hey, is that a Chicago like city shirt or Chicago like the band shirt?
Like I bought it at the Sears Tower for my dad, and it didn't fit him, so I took it
And cut the sleeves off.
Well, of course I cut the sleeves off, but yeah, no, nothing against Chicago the band either, who I love, but 70s Chicago, not that 80s shit. But anyway, yeah, that's the whole thing. Is the Midwest was starting to happen. You had Mudvayne come out of Moline, Illinois. You had American Head Charge come out of Minneapolis. You had Slipknot come out of Des Moines. But all of a sudden it's don't bother. We're the only ones. I think it was the arrogance of there's just the one and only. I think that upset me. Because, okay, yeah, there is only one Slipknot. You're fucking right there is. But to puff your chest out and stand on a pedestal and say just the one and only. Why do you get to decide that?
That, you know, I'm going to chalk it up to, like, young arrogance.
Sure, I'll give you that, like me spitting on somebody's magazine.
Yeah.
Young arrogance.
I'm not going to take it to heart.
I very much did at the
so
time.
much anymore.
I don't anymore, but I'm just going backwards. I'm trying to relay how I felt.
At the time, yeah.
At the time. And it was, like I said, when we went to band practice, every one of us from other bands and shit were kind of standing around in the circle going, did you read that? How could they? How dare they? You know, that's how we all felt. Not like, well, they didn't pass my demo on to this A&R guy or whatever the fuck. It was like, why even kill it before you even have a chance? And that's what I think they robbed us of, was a chance. I think they did that. And, you know, c'est la vie. I mean, you can't predict what could have been, and obviously it never will, but I just thought, why was that necessary? Why couldn't you have just said, yeah, Des Moines had a lot to do with it, and leave it at that? No, he went out of his way to say, we're the one and only. Don't bother. That, it's a hard thing to talk about, too, because when Paul Gray died, and this was 10 years ago, I remember when he died and the cause of death came out, I was very much sympathetic to it because I'm an addict. I know what that's like. You know, you can wonder, why would somebody 38 years old with a kid and a wife be in a hotel? Well, you got to be an addict to know why you would do that. I understood why he would do that. But the thing that kind of tore at me was there was still that little part of me that remembered what he said. That was his legacy to me. And that's unfortunate. But the damn thing is, they never went back and clarified it. Ever. You know, just kind of like Donald Trump making fun of the disabled reporter. Never once did he apologize for that. And I can't forgive him for that.
You know what? It could have been just a backstage interview in between shows on Ozfest.
Right,
know,
right.
Maybe he honestly didn't remember.
That could,
when he, because in their early days, they were pretty drunk a lot.
Oh, you read their history. They were partying. They were partying.
And especially when, like the most excitement in your day when you're on the Ozfest tour is when you get to play.
Yeah.
So what are you going to fill the downtime with?
Well, and that's where
drinking and shenanigans.
Yep.
And I would like I want to chalk it up to that. Maybe he just one didn't remember.
Sure. Well, absolutely. How you going to remember?
Two, maybe he had was a few drinks in.
Right, and could have been a fucking snort up the nose or whatever the fuck. But I mean, no, I get that. I do get that. But I guess the one thing that I keep kind of going back to is whatever you say when you're drunk or you're high, you can maybe know that you were out of line or something like that, but there's a grain of truth that is unfiltered. They truly believe that. And that's what upsets me. Is not only did they believe that, but they had to go out of their way to say that. And I believe it was Alexis who said they were acting in their own self-interest. Well, I can't speak for her now, but I found it really funny when it was probably 2012. For whatever reason, they decided to have this band reunion or something at Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever the fuck. So, of course, I went to that. And a couple of the guys from Smack Dab were there and everything else. And they were talking about Alexis's quote in that movie and saying how they were upset that she said that. And I'm sitting there at the time going, well, don't you kind of think that's sort of true? And it's almost like they were doing damage control of, well, she shouldn't have said that. She shouldn't have gone on her way to say it. Why the hell not? They did it. Why can't she have an opinion about that? They were upset that she even said that. Which I thought, okay, I get it that, but the way she worded it, it didn't sound like shit talking to me at all. It sounded like somebody documenting what had happened. And that was what happened. As soon as that interview came out, see, I think a lot of the people in Des Moines were a lot closer to it, sitting there wondering, why is nothing happening? But for me, I wasn't that involved in it as far as the Des Moines scene went. I was up here in North Iowa reading a Metal Edge magazine and reading that quote and going, well, there it goes. Why the hell would anybody come to Iowa? And now they're fucking not gonna. And it never recovered.
It's just as well because the music industry kind of sucks now anyway.
Well, it doesn't.
You're better off being self-produced and the wonderful world of YouTube and Instagram.
Oh, and nobody could have. Nobody could have predicted that, though.
You're right, nobody. But in hindsight,
absolutely. That's why we're talking about this 20 years later.
And you know what? Think about the bands you were in, and think about the effort that some of the other members put into it.
Yeah.
And how it wasn't as much effort as you would put into it.
Oh, I'm not saying Slipknot fucked me out of my Joshua Lee Johnson's chance at all. At the time in 99, 2000, I couldn't sing. Fucking the band I was in, we were still finding our voice. I'm not saying some A&R guy would have come to fucking Osage, Iowa and said, yes, sign these guys. I'm not saying that at all. I don't think anybody fucked me out of anything. But I think universally, or at least statewide, they absolutely did. Because who's to say there wasn't some diamond in the rough somewhere in Ottumwa?
Yeah, around the same time period. I hear what you're saying on that.
Yeah, who's to say that wasn't around? And once again, what could have been, we'll never know, and on and on and on. But I just feel it's important to acknowledge that, no, they didn't owe anybody anything, but they seemingly went out of their way to ensure we're going to be the only ones. Nobody else. Stay away from it. I mean, it's kind of the effect of your wife not wanting you to meet her hot coworker or something like that. It's like, you can't come to work. There's nobody here. You don't want to see this. That's kind of what it felt like. It's like, all right.
So let's get back to the album a little bit.
By all means, I got that off my chest.
Hey,
I'm done.
Aaron grievances.
Like I said, 20 years, it's not so much, it doesn't bother me anymore. But boy, my God, at the time, it was devastating.
So let's talk about I know we touched on it briefly, but songs you did like and songs you disliked. Are there any more on that record that you like or dislike?
On that record, the one song that stands out to me, well, obviously Spit It Out, but we've already gone over that, but I remember the only thing I remember about their appearance at Ozfest was Corey Taylor introducing a song called Purity.
Okay, so Purity is actually a song from the MFKR days.
Sure.
That they kind of rewrote and they kind of.
But didn't they pull that off the first album?
Yeah, it was kicked off the first album, but then when they re-released it or special edition or 10-year anniversary or something,
right,
they put it back on. I believe or was Purity on Iowa? I can't remember.
No, Purity was on the first one, but then they took it off the first one. I think they took it off because I remember that Ozfest, broad daylight. I can still remember they were wearing the red suits, and I don't remember Corey Taylor's exact words, but he outlined that it was basically about some girl who was locked in a box. And I think the disturbing content was why they pulled it.
Well, yeah, it was like based on a serial killer or something.
I think it was based on a true story.
It may have been, but I think it was actually a fictional story.
Was it really?
I think he thought it was real, but I think it was a fictional story.
But no, that's the one thing I remember, and I couldn't tell you how the song goes, but I do know that insofar as songs I like on the debut album, hate to say this, but if I never heard it again, it wouldn't hurt my feelings. Now, when I became a fan of Slipknot was Volume 3, and there's another backstory to you and me was Slipknot had been around for a few years at that point, and you, me, and I believe it was Eric Hirsch, the guy who wanted to play bass in the band that we were in.
Right.
And I can't remember who the other cat was, but we're going to Des Moines to go to the strip bar. Now, I was the only one of legal drinking age in this crew. And I'm riding in the back seat of this car because it's the only place where I could smoke. And we were listening to, I wasn't even clocking really what we were listening to. Then I finally asked, what was
I want to say this was like it was really close to when Volume 3 dropped.
Well, Volume 3 did drop. That's what we were listening to.
Right. I don't remember if it was like the week of, the day of, but it was very new. I remember it being very new.
Yep. But yeah, we were listening to Volume 3, and the song Vermilion Part 2 came on. And I was just fucking paying attention. And I remember looking at you going, dude, this is fucking great. Yeah, for whatever reason, that was when the whole thing flipped and I became a fan of that. I went out the next day and bought the album.
Oh, yeah. I think it's great. But the funny thing is about Volume 3, there's a lot of hardcore fans that felt slighted by it.
Why? Because they had hooks? Because they had accessible songs?
Because you're not the heaviest thing in the world, bro.
They had plenty of heavy on that fucking album.
Of course they did. They're Slipknot.
Right. And that's where I became a fan, because I started to see that there was so much more to this band than what I called headache music. And it was Vermilion Part 2 that did it.
Right.
And it was a certain hook in that song. When she makes me sad. That grabbed me. I'm like, holy shit.
Let me think here. So as far as self-titled goes, I got to find a track listing because I can't remember all the songs.
But then the next song that got me was Pulse of the Maggots. And it got me because there was a guitar solo in the middle of it. Like a fucking genuine fucking guitar solo.
So self-titled, I think I like Sick.
Right.
All right. Everybody likes Wait and Bleed. It's a hook. It's hooky.
It's a fucking great song.
It's a poppy song.
Period.
Isn't that weird? It's poppy. For being a heavy song, it's a poppy song.
But that's the goddamn thing. Why did Slipknot go supernova? You gotta have hooks.
Spit It Out.
Spit It Out. My introduction, and it's a great song.
I like. So there's other songs that I kind of like pieces of, but then like I also thought like these lyrics are weird. Like Liberate. It always sounded like he's saying liberate bananas.
What is the actual line?
Liberate my madness.
Oh, okay.
Liberate bananas.
Well, people used to think one of the lines I sang was, as opposed to Now You Can Watch Me Die, people thought it was Naked Watch Me Die.
Yeah.
Well, that's what
And
happens when you
I
scream
wanna
like you're in a new metal band.
I wish I could. There's so many songs on this record that I can't recall what they sound like.
Right.
But I know. I want to say only one for some reason. I really like that.
Okay.
And God, I don't know. There's just parts of songs I like.
Sure.
I didn't really connect with the first record as much as most people do.
See, nor did I.
But when Iowa came out, I was like, yep.
Iowa, I remember being... I just remember that album being... Well, first of all, I got to say, I loved the artwork. The CD booklet I thought was great. But the one thing I remember about Iowa was, well, two things. Number one, the song My Plague. God, the hook in that chorus.
Oh, yeah.
I still love. And then the other thing was, this is where Corey Taylor was very much, it takes a lot for one line to like stop me in my tracks, but disaster piece. And you know the line I'm going to say. I want to slit your throat and fuck the wound. I just remember hearing that and going, what the fuck? Jesus, dude. Yeah, it was like, okay, you're either deliberately trying to cause shock or you are not in a good place right now.
No, he was not in a good
No,
place.
none of them were.
None of them.
That's why Sean hates listening to that album.
What, Iowa?
Yeah, because just it reminds him of
all
what
the
the fuck everyone was going through at that time.
Holy shit, though.
Yeah,
that
I want
thing, as far as heavy goes, it was like Morbid Angel on steroids.
Yes, but just that line, I want to slit your throat and fuck the wound. I went,
I liked everything about Iowa.
Iowa was a great album.
And I was like, hey, no guitar solos? I don't care, because it was just crushing aggression the whole time.
At that point, I didn't care either. I loved Iowa, but it didn't make me a fan.
I'm gonna
Volume 3 did.
Oh, I understand that. I'm gonna say I was a fan when I remember listening to Iowa when it came out,
right,
because of a acquaintance of a mutual friend.
Yeah,
was like, hey, check this out, and it was like the most crushing thing at the time.
It really was, and that's where.
But I just want to say I heard some songs when I saw them on Ozfest. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't listen to the record until it came out, but I remember when they played Heretic Anthem the first time on Ozfest. So like the first time I heard that.
That was the one I remember. That was the one that I felt was a very. Okay, we were talking in the Sabbath episode about lazy lyrics, and I'm sure Corey Taylor, if he hears this, is going to want to kill me, but that just seemed the laziest lyric, because if you're 5'5", I'm 6'6". Okay, Satan. All right, come on. But you know what? You got to give him credit, because the Rollins were, hey ho, let's go, and it became an anthem. So he wrote an anthem, and that was great. But it just, for me personally, I thought, all right, 666 Satan, and we're still scared of this.
Yeah,
Fine.
okay. That's the chanty part of the song, the
Right.
hooky part of the song. But the other lyrics and the other riffs and the guitar parts were like,
Sure.
it was there as far as heaviness goes. So you mentioned Disaster Pieces.
No.
That's I want
Pieces?
to Disaster Piece. Disaster Pieces.
And fun fact about that, Sugar Ray also has a song named that.
So,
Hey, I tell you what.
Disaster Piece.
I tell
Okay.
you what, if Mark McGrath was ugly as sin, people would actually probably like Sugar Ray.
We're not going to get into that. So,
I don't care. Fly's a good song. Fuck you.
so like, you just fucked me up, man. So Slipknot just recently
All right.
released a BBC radio recording.
Did they?
Yeah, so it's like, and they did video, so they released that,
All right.
and it is very small and intimate. So like, think of a 1998 Slipknot crowd, and then like, but like today of all their everything they've done, their whole library. So what they did is they played one song off each record that they have.
Huh. Okay.
And it's really cool to see such a small crowd and them on such a small stage again.
Right.
But they would, in between songs, they talked to the band and stuff.
Yeah.
So like they were like, oh well, why'd you choose this song off this record? So I believe the Iowa song was Disaster Piece.
Okay.
Because like Corey Taylor was like, hey, hey, what does Corey Taylor feel about this? So anyway.
Right. That's why, I tell you what, very quick side note. I love the fact, like I said, call me, just hometown boy or whatever. I love the fact that a guy from Iowa has gotten such national, if not international, attention for having an opinion to where it's become a meme. What does Corey think?
Oh, yeah.
And to me, Corey Taylor is going to be the next Henry Rollins.
Yeah.
And you know what? I salute that to the
utmost. I've read his books.
So have I.
He's not a dumb metal guy.
No, not at all.
He's very well spoken, and I like it when he talks.
Yeah,
and he can tell a story, and he's very entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
But anyway, so as far as they're like, oh, why'd you choose this song? He's like, it was something along the lines of that's what's if I could take my head off and kick it around,
right?
That's what that song makes me feel like. He's like, it just amps me up.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, I can see that.
And I could see that. But yeah, that's the other thing about going back to Corey Taylor being from Iowa and still never losing that. I remember watching him on the Metal Show, and I loved this. Almost like a heartwarming thing to watch this. Eddie Trunk asked him, about how he auditioned for Velvet Revolver, and Corey Taylor said,
Hold up. That is a bit of information I didn't know. He tried out for Velvet Revolver.
You didn't know that?
I did not know that.
No, he did. When Weiland left or whatever the hell, they had several people. Corey Taylor
not the first time? Not like when they... Okay, so remember they did that show?
Yes. No, this was after Contraband and all this.
I also didn't know that, but okay.
Right. But yeah, so they were looking for another singer. Corey Taylor was one of them. My first thought was a fucking guy from Iowa got asked. This is great. Not the guy from Slipknot, but a guy from Iowa.
Well, another side note. Did you know that he was in talks of playing with Steel Panther?
Yes.
But they couldn't afford him.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the whole thing. Was Eddie Trunk asked him about auditioning for Velvet Revolver. And all I could think was, this is why I fucking love Corey Taylor, because he's still that kid from Iowa. He talked about when he went into the audition and he's like, and I know I'm supposed to be cool about this and everything, but I'm looking over there, I'm like, hey, that's Slash. And I'm looking at the guy next to me, I'm like, hey, that's Duff. Wait a minute, you're Duff. You already know you're Duff, but that's Slash. And I just thought, what a fucking great guy. That's how down to earth he is. Multi-platinum selling, played these huge crowd, and he's still in awe of the fact that he's not only in the same room as Slash, but that he's auditioning to sing for Slash's band and trying to tell Duff about Slash and then realizing that he's talking to Duff. I thought that is the fucking coolest thing, and that's when I became a Corey Taylor fan. It's like, this guy, I don't care that if he comes across as a dick to people or whatever the fuck, I don't care. He is fucking awesome. And then, do you remember the spat that he got in with Chad Kroeger from Nickelback?
No, but speaking of spats,
Christ.
Do you remember the spat he got into with fucking Fred Durst?
Yes. Well, and that's the whole thing, that the Fred Durst thing and then the Chad Kroeger thing. The only thing that I could possibly think of is, why in the hell would you get in a war of words with Corey Taylor? He is gonna fucking win, and he's gonna make you probably want to kill yourself by the end of it. He's good. He is goddamn witty as shit.
He is definitely a guy who sleeps with a dictionary.
Well, absolutely. And that's the whole fucking thing, is like, if he ever gets wind of this podcast and I have to answer for it, I hope it's not to him. Because no matter what, I'm probably going to wind up apologizing to them.
Don't worry. We're small time, and nothing good comes out of Iowa.
Well, not anymore, as we already went over. But
sick burn.
Ooh. But God, was there anything else I had? Oh, right. We have to finish out the Volume 3 story.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So, we already explained Mr. October, or July, or whatever.
July 1974.
I became a fan of Slipknot because of that road trip to the strip club. Listened to that album, and it resonated. I went out the next day and bought it. Now, at that strip club, if anybody here is wondering where 40 the Hard Way came from, and I'm sure you're using your fucking imagination, and you're probably right, it originated when we walked in there, and Chad, you were what, 19 at the time? Something like that?
Yeah, probably.
Well, Chad was 18 or 19. So were the rest of these kids. I was the only one that was like 21, 22. So I could drink. None of them could. So I walk in with my 12-pack of Corona. I'm getting good and loaded.
Well, you got to stop here. This particular stripping establishment was bring your own beer.
Yep. So juice bar, in essence, that you could bring your own beer.
Right.
So anyway, we all sit down, and none of you kids, had been to a strip club before. And obviously I had, so the first young/lady to walk up to the table said, which of you boys wants to dance? I immediately pointed to you. I said, this guy right here. And you looked at me like, you fucker. Said, just fucking do your thing. Well, she had to have been, my guess is late 30s, possibly early 40s.
No way, dude. She was like 45.
Okay, fine. So she was in her mid-40s.
I like how you use the term young lady.
Well,
There were
you say,
like,
old broad?
yeah, that would have worked. There were like 20 other women
And I picked her.
that were probably my age.
No, you didn't know that wasn't going to be your introduction.
Yeah.
You had to go 40
I had
the
to go
hard way.
40 the hard way.
Yep, and that's where that started. And
Because right when I was done, I told you, I said, thanks, Josh. Did you really have to get me 40 the hard way?
And at that moment, I looked at you and said, yes, I did. And by the way, I'll take the next dance. And the reason I did that, I wound up paying for 2 dances from this lady. Because the dances where they take you into a private room and dance or whatever. You want to know why I paid for 2 dances? She was wearing a Ramones shirt. Now, I couldn't tell you how the dances were. I couldn't tell you even what her body looked like. I just know I paid fucking whatever amount of money to talk music with her.
It was $20 for one song.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, so I paid $40 just for the express purpose of talking to her about why she was wearing a Ramones shirt.
Right,
But
because much of the other women weren't wearing anything.
But this is the story of my life in strip bars. Fucking my first bachelor party.
Are you like a typical John? Are you a typical John? You just want to talk.
No, I'm a typical Josh who doesn't give a shit until the music's right. Fucking I got drugged to the strip bar at my first fucking bachelorette party. And hopefully the only other one besides the last one I did. But I sat there just miserable. Getting lap dances bought for me and shit. I'm just bored. And all of a sudden, Led Zeppelin comes on over the fucking loudspeakers. Live and Love and Made. And at that point, I lit up like, guys, it's fucking Led Zeppelin. And everybody in the fucking party looked at me like, the fuck is the matter with you? I'm like, what? It's Zeppelin's like, you have had 5 lap dances bought for you. You've not fucking cracked a smile at all, but Led Zeppelin comes on and you're happy? I'm like, yeah, so? But no, the only 2 things about that particular night that stand out to me were fucking walking into the men's room and seeing 2 guys fucking each with a spoon up their nose turn and look at me with abject horror. And they looked at me and said, you gonna say anything? I said, not if you give me a line. So right at the bracket it went, which afforded me enough energy to buy another 12-pack, get so fucking drunk that when you dropped me off at my buddy's apartment, you had to get out of the car.
Stop. You're missing a piece of this.
Oh, there's more?
Yes, you. While we were there.
Oh, Christ, what did I do?
Tried to pick a fight.
Huh?
With the guy that was picking up the empty beer bottles.
Wait, what?
Because you thought he was stealing your beer. So
I tried to pick a fight.
So me...
Oh, God.
had to de-escalate the situation.
Was this before or after my men's room visit?
After, because I watched you kill a 24-pack of Corona after that.
Oh.
Which would explain the next thing you're describing.
Chad, I don't remember this, but thank you for allowing me to not get my fucking bony ass kicked. I don't remember that.
Well, of course, I can't watch somebody get their ass kicked if I could kick someone's ass.
I don't remember that. I picked a fight with a guy?
Well...
Or
You were...
Negative?
It wouldn't have been a fight. You were drunk.
Okay, I don't remember that, but how many years later? Thank you. Appreciate that.
No problem.
But yeah, I got out of the car after you dropped me off. You had to get out of the car and physically turn me around in the right direction of the apartment. That I do remember.
Not to mention the wet floor sign you stole.
All right. Well, it was there. You know, I have no real other justification for that. But, okay, so we...
Well, you know what? Let's, before we end this...
Okay,
Before we end this, do we like self-titled?
No.
I like it. I like it enough to give it a spin once in a while. It was really hard to get through this time around.
Yeah.
I listened to it and I was like, do I really have good things to say? I have some good things to say. I like some of the songs, I like some of the riffs. I understand why they exploded into the band they are today.
How about let me elaborate, if you don't mind?
Sure.
It's not that I don't like the self-titled album. If I'm at work and Sick comes on or Spit It Out comes on or Wait and Bleed comes on, I'll dig it and I'll jam. So, okay, let me flip my vote. Yeah, I do like it. I don't love it, but I like it.
Okay, and let's step away from Slipknot. Let's kind of do some little bit of news, or maybe
News. Yeah, I got news.
Well, all right. I also have news, but let's talk about, did we listen to or watch anything new or different? So for me,
Okay.
I'm gonna step in and do me.
All right. Yeah, please.
So you were like, hey, you should check out the Apple.
Oh God.
So I did.
I'm sorry.
I did check out the Apple, and it was terrible.
It's horrible.
It's horrible. It's a musical,
Yes.
which is fine. I generally don't like musicals.
Musicals suck. Let's admit it.
You know what? I'll let Sweeney Todd and Phantom of the Opera slide, and Cannibal the Musical.
I would let Rocky Horror slide.
Oh, how did I forget that? Such a fucking idiot. Yeah, Rocky Horror definitely gets pass. So anyway, it was a musical, and I was dreading it because I hate musicals. And you know what? It was pretty bad, and it felt like it was religious propaganda.
It very much was.
So like, so there's a guy named Jack Chick, and
Yes.
he made religious propaganda comic strips.
I still have one of those in my possession.
I found one at work, hidden at work.
I have one about Christian rock.
Yeah, I know exactly the one you're talking
Is
about.
it called Angels?
Yes,
Yep, I have it.
That band, and then they got AIDS.
The Green Angels, yeah. Yes.
Okay, so you know what? I'm not going to go into it.
Please don't.
But anyone who's listening, do yourself a favor and look up Jack Chick comic strips. It's religious propaganda. It's bad.
Or you know what?
It's bad, and it's not.
How about this? Just instead of looking up Jack Chick and really blowing your own mind, just go on YouTube and look up the Apple Speed. There you go. There's the whole movie. That's every appeal of the movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much nothing. Admit it. It's a great song.
I really didn't like the song.
How do you not like that song?
I don't know. It's a musical. I didn't like any of the songs.
No, the musical is horrible and the premise is horrible. It's all awful, but Speed.
So anyway, you kind of gave us a synopsis of it the last time, we talked.
Right.
I'm not going to go over the synopsis, but I just want to say it ends with what I think is a cult suicide because there was like a hippie commune at the end, and
Child of love.
So I think they all committed suicide because then they all follow what I call the Cadillac Jesus.
Well, and this is where getting into how deep are you going to get into the religious overtones? Actually, I had this pointed out last weekend. We all took notes and watched this.
Okay, so the record producer in this movie is the devil.
To be a master. Yep.
Yeah, he's like the devil.
Oh, of course.
And he's like luring these young kids to his record label and wants them to, I don't know. It's like a Jack Chick comic.
Well, did you ever notice that the escalators in the movie, every one of them goes down?
I didn't notice that because this movie sucked balls.
It's horrible, but I tell you what, to anybody listening to this, go watch the app.
Go watch it.
You want to know why? Because we're all forming our gigantic self-help group.
And the more of us that watch it, the more we can complain about it, and everybody knows what we're talking about.
Yep.
So then what I did, after I watched The Apple, is I was like, you know what? I think I need some punishment in my life.
Worse than the apple.
I looked up The Holy Mountain. And that's the movie that Sleep's Holy Mountain is supposed to be loosely based on. Sure. From what I've heard, there's probably absolutely zero proof of that. But anyway, I subjected myself to it.
All right.
And it's even worse than the Apple. And Amazon has them. So, rent them. It's crap. And then, if that wasn't enough, If that wasn't enough, I went and I looked up Kim Mitchell, Go for a Soda.
All right. Now we're talking about love.
So I didn't just like listen to the song.
You watched the goddamn
I
video.
watched the music video,
Oh.
which I got to admit, the song's okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
For you to even call it okay is like massive.
It's okay enough that I would probably listen to it again and not want to pull my own teeth out.
The worst part is you're going to keep listening to it.
I don't know if I will, but maybe.
Well, the worst part, hey, I tell you what, I already told you last time how Nicole fucking got that ingrained into her. And then the next thing I know, you're messaging me at 5 in the morning going, so I watched the video for Go for a Soda. Yep.
Yeah, so I watched the video because why not? It's so bizarre.
It's Canadian.
There's like this guy, this fat kid with a afro.
He's not fat.
He's husky.
He's pudgy,
He's
if
a
anything.
he's a husky dude.
Really think about what kids are looking like now.
Okay.
That's nothing.
Yeah. So anyway, like this guy, I'm convinced he's smoking jazz cabbage.
Devil's lettuce.
The devil's
Notes.
lettuce. He's taking notes.
Taking copious notes.
He's taking notes, and he sits down to watch TV.
Well, keep in mind what started was him and his friend trying to get this chick to come over.
I must have missed that
Yeah,
because
because he was on the phone and then he hands the phone to his friend.
okay. Well, anyway, like I ignored all that, and the guy just goes like sits down and turns his TV on.
Think, might as well go for a
So
soda.
like, so then like they pop out of the TV. They being the band. Well, actually,
It was just Kim
It was
Mitchell.
just Kim Mitchell at first.
Yeah, and-
and he's
okay,
like a little
help me
transparent.
out.
He's a little transparent hologram.
Okay, I gotta know though. Considering what you're a fan of, did you think Devin Townsend when you saw him?
No,
You didn't?
no.
That was the first thing I thought when I saw him.
Well, you're a bastard then.
Why am I a bastard?
Look, I know he's rocking a skullet.
Well, but he does it deliberately, and he's also Canadian, and so was Kim Mitchell.
Oh, you know what? You know what? Heavy Devi has since shaved his skullet, and he
Yes.
just rocks the bald head like
Yes,
Joe
because he-
Satriani.
Because he got over the joke. But that's only a Canadian or Hulk Hogan will do that.
Oh man,
And Hulk Hogan
look,
will do it because he can kick your ass.
Hulk Hogan could probably kick my ass. Anyway,
Could probably.
yeah, he's
Chad, I love you, but really?
Yeah,
I know you can
even
kick
in-
my ass.
even in his old age. I'm pretty sure he could.
I still wonder, but...
He'd probably show me the floor.
Oh, and fun fact, did you know that during the WWF, not E, but F events in the 80s, there was one stipulation in Hulk Hogan's contract. You were not allowed to make fun of his hairline.
Did Bret Michaels also have that clause in his contract?
I don't know, but no, I guess that was in Hulk Hogan's contract when the wrestlers would talk shit to each other. You were not.
Okay, I see.
You were not allowed to bring that up.
Touchy subject.
Well, you think it wasn't his fault?
So anyway,
Knock on wood.
so then this kid is watching TV, and a little hologram Kim Mitchell pops out with his guitar and his weird ass singing.
And he keeps trying to catch him.
Yeah, because he smoked a J. So anyway,
Smoked a J. He fucking ate a bag of mushrooms.
yeah, he's magic brownies, whatever. So then he's like, you know what would go good?
A soda.
A soda. So he
opens the fridge.
So he goes to the fridge,
And
and,
there's
then
like a
the rest of the band comes out,
and a crowd.
and a crowd, and it's the weirdest shit you've ever seen.
But then the soda magically morphs into the fridge, all different flavors. And he goes for an orange soda. And then at the very end of it, he shuts the fridge and hangs up the phone on whatever bitch they're trying to get to the place. And he looks at his friend and says, hey, might as well go for a soda.
Yeah.
And
So thanks for that, Josh.
you're welcome.
It was quite the trip, and I didn't even have to do any drugs.
Yeah, and the worst part is Kim Mitchell, I'm pretty sure, was clear-headed
That's fine.
when all that happened. But
So I'm gonna pass it on over to you, and you can tell us about all the neat stuff
the neat
that
stuff.
you've experienced.
Okay, here's
And I'm gonna go have a piss quick.
All right, you rock it, and I'm going to... No, get back on the phones, man, because you got to be here for this.
Well, just give me a second.
All right. Well, what the hell good is this if I have to monologue without you to... All right, so... Well, now that I'm doing the monologue here, I was also engulfed in the apple, and this was amongst a group of people that you can find out who's under the influence of what and who's getting whatever out of anything. That this was my future in-laws as of tomorrow, bachelorette party. We all gathered and thought, well, let's take notes or day drink and watch The Apple. And watching in that context, definitely noticing little things like all the escalators go down. So obviously there's a hell metaphor there. And then the song Coming For You had choreographed, I'm guessing, Kama Sutra references. I don't know what any of that was about. But at the end of the day, I don't think that the commune committed suicide. I think it was very biblical in that the leader of the commune, did you also notice that he bore a striking resemblance to God? Or at least Mr. Tops? That was the whole Father, Son, Holy Spirit bit of it. So anyway,
yeah, they were supposed to be opposites. The record, I don't even remember anybody's name in this stupid ass movie,
and there's no point.
There's no point. But yeah, the record producer was the devil, and the hippie commune leader was obviously Jesus or God.
Well, both. Father, Son,
of
Holy
course,
Spirit.
Of course, it's both. I guess because that makes sense.
Right.
But you know what?
What?
Why did he feel up his landlord /
that
mother?
One bit I don't think it was his mom. I can't choose to believe it was his mom.
It wasn't. I think it's credited as landlady, but
yeah.
But when I first watched it, I was like,
why did he feel up the landlady?
Is that his mom? No, that's got to be his landlady.
No, that was the landlady.
Why is his landlady in his fucking room?
Because I don't know, but either way,
grabs her boobs.
I don't know. She was a BBW. You gotta love that. But all right. So The Apple. I think we've exhausted the ever-loving hell out of this.
Watch The Apple. It's awful.
Fuck it. Look up The Apple Speed, and that's all you need.
No, just watch the movie and you'll catch the song.
Yes, and then look up Speed again because it's the best song ever. All right. So the next bit that I had as far as new music to listen to went down the rabbit hole of the band Rose Tattoo. You remember when I was talking about them the last time? How they were the one band that you wouldn't want to get in a fight with.
Because they're ugly?
Yeah, and
hey, don't fuck with ugly dudes.
You know what, Angry Anderson, if you're listening to this, you know what, I'm sorry, all right? I'm just saying that you are the guys I would not want to even fucking try to get in an altercation with.
Is this like Twisted Sister?
What do you mean?
Well, they're ugly dudes.
Yeah, but
even
they were Bette Midler on
with makeup on. They
Yes.
were ugly fucking dudes.
No, Rose Tattoo, they were the guys at the bar who had been at the bar for a while and didn't give a shit. Just look up some Rose Tattoo, man. It's fucking good stuff. But I dove down that rabbit hole. I was like,
I don't want to believe you, but I'm gonna look it up.
look them up. Look up just look up the video for Scarred for Life. You know, it's just good, dirty rock and roll, but rock and roll the way it was meant to be. And I watched footage of them on a Monsters of Rock cruise.
Recently?
2019.
Okay.
Yes. And yeah, even in broad daylight on a cruise ship, they're still just
Ugly dudes.
no, they're still badass rock and roll guys who don't give a shit. There's no irony to what they're doing. They're playing rock and roll. Right.
Hey, I'm gonna check it out.
Check it out. Okay, so that was the Rose Tattoo thing, and then got to thinking, about different bands or whatever that really signified rock without irony, and the one band was Rockland Eagles. You remember me telling you about them?
Incessantly.
Yes, and I still will go to the mat for that band.
Hey, so every so often I remember you telling me about them, and I'll go look them up. Did their singer die?
Yes. You told me he died.
Oh.
You were the one that broke that news to me because I was going on once again about, God, I'd love to go back to Austin and see Rockland Eagles. You're like, yeah, he died in 2016, which fucking sucks because, God, if you could find any footage of them, they were incredible. In fact, we will do a whole podcast just about that band.
Well, let's not get carried away.
No. They were fucking brilliant. They had a guitar player who fucking wore an Elvis fucking one-piece jumpsuit, who was probably about 5'4", pudgier than fuck, wore Coke bottle black-rimmed glasses, but could shred. And then asked my ex and I if we wanted to get in a menage a trois, because apparently we were sexy. Yeah, that was my introduction to that band. But they were fucking brilliant.
You have the best Josh stories.
This is what I do, okay? I gotta have something. Okay, so yeah, Rockland Eagles, and then as far as new music we've been listening to, and hopefully we can end this installment on this fucking whole thing.
I still have more. Would you like me to interject before you leave the last thought to think
Actually,
upon?
no. I'll let you have the last thought because I'm going to do this and then I'm going to go relieve myself.
All right, right on.
I've developed a Stockholm syndrome with modern country music, and I'll tell you why. I'm at work. I don't have a stereo at work, but the guy I work with does. And he's a fan of all kinds of music, and some I'll just ignore or whatever, but he's really into modern country music. And this initially was hell for me, but I've gotten to the point now where I look forward to hearing Miranda Lambert sing Bluebird. And I don't know why. And I'm even more disturbed by the fact that I enjoy listening to Luke Bryan. This guy sounds like he's on the verge of tears every time he sings, but for some reason, an incredibly stupid, obvious song like Knockin' Boots, I look forward to hearing now. Why? It's not a quality song. In fact, it's a fucking horrible song. It's an easy song. But I like it. Whereas if you flip the other end of it, you take somebody like Blake Shelton singing The Boys Round Here. I could do a whole fucking podcast just on everything wrong with that song. So yeah, I've developed a Stockholm syndrome with this god-awful music. I hate it. I know it's bad, but I think there's a weird comfort into hearing it every day. And
you fucking Iowans and your goddamn country music.
You fucking Iowans. Fuck you. You lived in Iowa longer than you lived in Illinois, so don't you fucking Iowans me.
You know what?
That's like me saying you fucking long hairs to you. Yeah.
So I hate country music.
Yeah, it's horrible.
I don't even know who you're talking about or what you're talking
Just
about.
Just don't go down that rabbit hole because you'll listen to it and you'll want to kick my ass.
I'm not going to listen to
Please
it because there's two genres of music I will never listen to, and that's pop country, because I can't say country. I like Willie and Johnny Cash.
Yeah, no, this is pop country.
I will not listen to pop country, and I will not listen to reggae.
Oh, come on.
I will not listen to those,
no.
and I will be an arrogant fuck about it until the day I die.
But just do me a favor, don't listen to this, because you're going to hear Miranda Lambert singing Bluebird, and you'll never let me hear the end of it. But speaking of modern country, I don't give a fuck. Dixie Chicks, Natalie Maines, Marriage Material. She wore a shirt on TV that said FUTK, fuck you, Toby Keith. That's goddamn Marriage Material. Uh-huh.
Let's end it on that.
Okay.
So, this is Chadwick Von Tippitt.
And Joshua Lee Johnson.
And we'll see you next time.
For one more
last time.